All right, let's talk about chapter 6, which is called Beast from Air. If you recall, chapter 5 was Beast from Water, so it's continuing this idea of the beast and seeking the beast and how it represents fear and how each character reacts to that notion of fear. And the first, I want to point out the way Golding, is setting the scene. By the first sentence, he says, there was no light save that of the stars. And you can see it's dark. It's scary. And even in the second paragraph, a sliver of moon rose over the horizon, hardly enough to make a path of light, even when it sat right down on the water. But there were no lights, other lights in the sky, that moved fast, winked, or went out, though not even a faint popping came down from the battle fought at 10 miles height. So remember, it's still within the time frame of World War II, so there's plenty of air fighting going on. But here, nothing. Nothing going on. It's dark, it's scary. And if you recall, Sam and Eric are in charge of the fire that we'll see in a couple paragraphs here. But if you go down, there is something that falls in the end of chapter or end of paragraph 2 talks about it. Something from the human or the adult world, it's called, right? A sign came down from the world of grown-ups. And so something comes down in this like burning lump, and we'll see in the next chapter what this thing was, but it's like the beast came down, and that just scares the bejesus out of Sam and Eric, and they feel that it's chasing them, it's coming after them, and so they run and ask for Ralph, and they call a meeting, an assembly to discuss this, and I wanted you to see this theme of fear continuing. Here, let's move down. When Sam and Eric come to Ralph and say that they saw the beast, look at how Golding creates the tone. Soon the darkness was full of claws, full of the awful known and menace. An interminable dawn faded the stars out, and at last light, sad and gray, filtered into the shelter. They began to stir, though still the world outside the shelter was impossibly dangerous. The maze of the darkness sorted into near and far, and at the high point of the sky the cloudlets were warmed with color. And so you feel the tension that the boys are feeling of the fear from the little ones, and Jack kind of runs with that fear and wants to do something about it, but Ralph is trying to be calm and be reasonable, right? And then look at how Jack reacts. Jack sneered at him, frightened. You can just imagine, a teenage boy saying that to another boy. You chicken? You scared? Huh? And Ralph, as a leader, he's saying, of course I'm frightened. Who wouldn't be? And so he understands the fear, but he's trying to be reasonable, be calm, be the leader for the boys, right? And you again see the difference in philosophies of the leaders, where the little ones come back into play here, where Ralph says, "What about the little ones?" And look at how Jack responds, "Sucks to the little ones." So Jack has that constant feeling of, hey, if you're not able to hang with us, you don't deserve to kind of be a part of this society, part of this group. And so he says that multiple times, right? That sucks to your ass, Mar, sucks to your little ones. Um, and so you see that mentality. And here we have like really the breakdown of civilization and order continuing. When Jack breaks in again, he broke in, and this time he broke in contemptuously with hatred, right? You're always scared. And then Piggy says, I've got the conch. And Jack says, conch, conch. We don't need the conch anymore. You see how that shift is occurring now, where he's feeling like he doesn't need that sense of order and civilization. We don't need the conch anymore. We know who ought to say things. What good did Simon do speaking, or Bill, or Walter? It's time some people knew they've got to keep quiet and leave deciding things to the rest of us, right? It's almost like that mentality of, hey, we'll do what's right in our own eyes, right? To use biblical terms. And so that philosophy of Ralph and Jack are still clashing, but Ralph still concedes to Ralph. Jack still concedes to Ralph's leadership right here. Ralph can no longer ignore his speech. The blood was hot in his cheeks. And look at how Ralph responds with authority. You haven't got the conch, he said. Sit down. Boom! Booyah! Jack's face went so white that the freckles showed as clear brown flecks. He licked his lips and remained standing. And so you still see that defiance, but you see Ralph asserting his leadership. Good for Ralph. And so they decide to go check out this beast and see what it's all about. And here we have a very interesting character development of Simon, who, as you recall, is kind of like that Christ-like figure, as we'll see later on in the story. But here's Simon not believing that the beast exists. Here's how Golding describes him. Simon, walking in front of Ralph, felt a flicker of incredulity, which means unbelief. He wasn't believing that a beast with claws that scratched, that sat on a mountaintop, that left no tracks, and yet was not fast enough to catch Sam and Eric. However, Simon thought of the beast, there rose before his inward sight the picture of a human at once heroic and sick. And so Simon has a very different picture of what the beast is than the rest of the boys, right? He's like, something doesn't add up. In his mind, he has something very different. And that continues on in this chapter, as you saw. And so as they continue on, you see Ralph continuing to develop as a leader as they continue moving along. Let's see here. Hang on, sorry. Where is it? Oh, yes. Okay. Ooh, where is it? Oh, okay, right here. Yeah, so you can see how Ralph develops as a leader here, where they're continuing to go. Something deep in Ralph spoke for him. I'm chief. I'll go. Don't argue. And I like that kind of rhythmic cadence of what Ralph says because it's very terse. It's very to the point in continuing this idea that he needs to assert his leadership and just say it. I'm chief. I'll go. Don't argue. And again, Simon says that he doesn't believe in the beast. And again, the theme and the symbolism of the fire comes into play here when if you see here, Ralph, he recognizes there's no signal now, nothing to show. And Jack, he keeps saying, you're nuts on the signal. And Ralph, this is a key sentence here. That's all we've got. You can see that represents the hope that he has. He still wants to continue that signal. And the last, third to last paragraph or so, again, what Ralph says here is so poignant. I'm chief. We've got to make certain. Can't you see the mountain? There's no signal showing. There may be a ship out there. Are you all off your rockers? How frustrating it is for Ralph, where he's trying to get everyone home to safety. He's trying to keep everyone safe on the island and maintain order and make sure that they're surviving and doing well. And yet people can't even do the basic tasks like keep the fire going so that they could potentially get saved. And so you continue to see this conflict develop, and we'll see how the boys continue to develop, continue to react to the fear that's caused and the divide between Ralph and Jack and their leadership styles.